Joining us now, MSNBC senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin, MSNBC White House reporter Laura Barron Lopez, and Punchbowl co-founder and MSNBC political analyst Jake Sherman. All right, so I want to begin with you, Jake, on what's happening on Capitol Hill. How significant is this release? What is the expectation?
The release is huge. I mean, it's remarkable in a few respects, Katie. Number one, this is a House controlled by Republicans and a committee controlled by Republicans unearthed all these emails. Like, let's just start with that. There's a political reason. I'm not saying it's a good governance reason. There's a political reason that leadership usually keeps a tight clamp on House committees because they want them to execute an agenda that they agree with. But James Comer, who's the chair of this committee, has clearly unearthed emails that are at least embarrassing for Donald Trump. That's number one. Number two, this discharge petition is going to come to the floor next week. I agree. There's probably going to be a jailbreak of Republicans who vote for this because they don't want to be seen as voting against the release of documents by Jeffrey Epstein. I had Tom Emmer on our show Flyout Day this morning, and he said he doesn't care. He doesn't care how many people vote, how many Republicans vote for this. I don't know that that's true, but I do think I'll put my analysis hat on now. I think the White House and the House Republican leadership made a bigger deal of this discharge petition than they needed to. This discharge petition, once it passes the House, which it will, it's not like the documents are going to come flying out of the Justice Department. This still needs to pass the Senate, and there's no sense it's even going to get a vote in the Senate. That's number one. Then Donald Trump needs to sign it. Donald Trump is not going to sign this thing. And then if he vetoes it, the House and the Senate then have to overturn the veto. That's not going to happen. And then still, even if this gets into law, the Justice Department still has relatively wide berth on what it can and will not release under the terms of this prospective law. So I think politically they just made a way bigger deal of this thing than they needed to.
Yeah, but how much pressure Donald Trump signing it or not signing it, I'll get into that with LBL. But the Senate, you say the Republicans, there's going to be a jailbreak in the House. How are Republicans in the Senate going to feel if it gets to them? And how do they feel if John Thune never brings it to the floor? How do they feel if John Thune does bring it to the floor and then they have to put their name on a vote?
Yeah, remember I think it was a couple months ago, Chuck Schumer forced a similar vote in the Senate, and Republicans all voted it down, or mostly voted it down. So they seem to be quite comfortable in voting against.
So why is it so different in the House?
The House is a different beast, Katie.
These are people
who are elected every 2 years.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I'm just trying to think of the Epstein pressure and the demand for the release of all this information and, what exactly he was doing, who knew. If it is as loud as it is, so much so that it's going to force House Republicans to vote, why would it not force the Senate Republicans? There are some of them who are up for re-election in 2026.
Yeah. I would say, number one, I think they have a stiffer spine. I think that's could be one of the cases. And they think, and listen, it is true that tons of documents are coming out. We now see that, right? If you're looking at it, from a pure political lens, it does seem that documents are coming out, which gives Republicans a place to quote unquote hide. Like, why do we need this if we're getting all these documents? And some of them, as you were noting in the beginning, are quite embarrassing to President Trump. They are. They reveal things that we did not know. Emails tend to, about the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. That's the basic reality of it.
Yeah. All right. So, Laura, tell me about the president. Does he see any risk? Does the White House see any risk in him signing a veto if it gets to him?
Oh, I think they would certainly see a lot of risk in that, Katie. Right now there's a bit of a sense of inevitability here at the White House, which is that, look, the president tried yesterday. It was a last-ditch, last-minute effort, bringing Lauren Boebert, the congresswoman, into the Situation Room, no less. And I think everyone knows that the Situation Room doesn't allow phones, so she would have had no ability to really record that conversation had she wanted to. But bringing her in, talking to other ones who had signed on to the discharge petition to try to get them to take their names off of it, and it didn't work. And so I think that right now the White House is regrouping and trying to figure out what exactly they're going to do ahead of this vote, if the president is going to do anything beyond posting on Truth Social. The last we've heard of him on this, and the only things that we've heard from him are on Truth Social, and he posted about some 24 hours ago calling it, quote, the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Now, of course, this is a 180 for the president and for all of those across his administration, like the Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, who all were calling for the release of these files. But I think that there is a lot of risk here, Katie, if he were seen to very directly veto something like this, especially with his base, who we know was really adamant about trying to get these files released.
Why are they so nervous about this? Why call Lauren Boebert into this Situation Room?
I think yesterday the White House believed that their best shot at trying to kill this was to get those signatures off the discharge petition.
Yeah, but why? Why do they need to kill this?
Well, why? I mean, I think your guess is as good as mine, Katie, which is that essentially over the campaign trail, the president said, yeah, I think I would do that. I think I'd be willing to release the Epstein files. He was never as gung-ho about it as the Kash Patels and Pam Bondis of the world, or as even his vice president, J.D. Vance, who called it, quote, important when he was on the podcaster Theo Vaughn's podcast, who's one of those big MAGA influencers who is trying to say that he was ultimately disappointed this past summer when the Epstein files hadn't been released. But I think that the reason is because obviously those emails don't look good for the president, and their base wants this out. And if more emails reveal, at the very least, as Jake said, are embarrassing, that could potentially hurt the president, not just with his base, but with independents, who he's already suffering with for a variety of different reasons. But I was just texting with a Republican lawmaker who said that they plan on voting for this when it comes to the floor next week. And I'm sure Jake is getting a lot of texts like this. And they said that they have not heard from the White House, and they essentially accept the fact that they think that the White House is accepting the fact that the reality is a lot of Republicans are going to potentially vote for this. The lawmaker thought it would be a sizable number, and this Republican lawmaker said that they thought that the White House mishandled the entire situation, especially at the beginning when the Attorney General Pam Bondi brought in all of those influencers I've been talking about, all of those conservative MAGA influencers, and handed them binders saying that they were going to release the Epstein files. So from that point on, it has been chaotic, and there's been a lot of backbiting, behind closed doors at the White House, especially between Bondi and Kash Patel.